The bell is ringing for the back-to-school bash at Capital Ford in Santa Fe. Don't be late to add up big factory incentives combined with final dealer subtractions on current inventory. Get back-to-school savings in a new 25 Ford F-150 STX. Buy for $699 a month plus 4.9% APR financing for 72 months. Or a new 25 Ford Bronco Sport. Lease for just $399 a month. It all adds up to a great time to buy during the back-to-school bash at Capital Ford in Santa Fe.
Good evening and welcome to another episode of Huddle Up. I'm one of your hosts, Ed Nunez. My other co-host is my son, Nick Nunez, a play-by-play announcer for ProView Networks and also a producer. Son, welcome to the show.
Dad, good evening. Good weekend of New Mexico football at all levels, man. Lobos looked really good, had two really good Division II football games in the state of New Mexico, and then a nice slate of high school football. So ready to get into it with our next guest.
Well, without our producer backstage is Eric Moulton. Our guest tonight is El Dorado junior wide receiver Jiari Morehead on week one against Oregon Mountain in a 56-28 win. Jiari scored 4 touchdowns, had 9 catches for 296 yards. This week, the Golden Eagles will take on Cibola this Friday at 7 p.m. at Wilson Stadium. Jiari, welcome to the show, man.
Yeah, thank you. Excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
You and I had a chance to talk, and one of the first questions I want to ask you, sometimes when you have a big performance like that, then you see an open date. I'll get to that in a second, but you've had a week to dissect your performance against Oregon Mountain. You were interviewed by James Yotis. You were in the paper. It's a big performance, man. And the most important thing is you won the game. Tell us about your performance. And, you've had a week to think about it. Everybody's, patting you on the back. And then they do, right, when you win. And you've got a big challenge this Friday night against Cibola. But tell us tell us about that game that night.
It was just a really good game. The first game of junior year, I know I had to show out. This is the really big year that I'm going to have to show out for college coaches. I'm just trying to show out what I could do. I had a little bit of slump last year, just trying to pick it up and just try to have a really big game.
Well, I'd say you did that and more, man. You really did, and we'll get into the coverage and how they didn't cover you, and nothing against Oregon Mountain. People have ways they want to play the football game, and it worked out for El Dorado that night. But I got to ask you this, because sometimes you have a big game like that, and you're looking forward to the next game. You're really looking forward to it, and then you've got a bye week. Was it kind of a letdown, that El Dorado, after a big performance like that, you're the man, and you are. That's at school for a week, right? You are. People are looking at you, and, everybody sees you. And then the next week you have a bye week. Was that kind of a letdown, for you?
Actually, for me personally, in that game, I actually hurt my ankle. So I've been so that whole week I was actually out of practice a little bit, just on the sideline. But this week I'm back practicing and ready to go. So I'm actually very thankful we had a bye week because I don't know how I'll do next week in that game.
You know what? That's important to get that rest and treatment. And a week is, you're young, man. Young people recover a lot quicker than older people do. So you'll probably be ready to roll against Cibola on Friday night, which is going to be a very good game. Go ahead, son.
Jiari, I want to talk to you a little bit about the growth from your sophomore season to your junior season. Looking at your numbers as a wide receiver last year, 17 catches, 362 receiving yards, 3 receiving touchdowns across 11 games played. I mean, you pretty much almost equaled your entire total season production as a receiver in one game, 9 catches, 296 yards, 4 touchdowns. Now, you were a big threat in the return game for El Dorado last year. I had you guys against Volcano Vista last season. Big-time threat, 3 kick returns for a touchdown, 3 kick return touchdowns, 2 punt return touchdowns in the kicking game. But just talk to us a little bit about the growth that you've made as a wide receiver from your sophomore to your junior season.
I'll say honestly, as a wide receiver, I try to work more on, my receiving craft. Last year I would always try to get open by my speed, and I realized that doesn't work a lot. So this offseason I worked a lot on, footwork, getting out the press, just releases, route running, and just, getting a lot faster because, and trying to bulk up my strength a little bit. I was in powerlifting, try to get a lot stronger, and that's what I did this offseason.
Talk to us a little bit about the coaching staff, man. If I'm not mistaken, you guys have a new offensive coordinator this year, and then a name that a lot of people here in New Mexico know. Zach Gentry is on the coaching staff for El Dorado. Talk about the impact that he's made for you.
Yes, Zach Gentry is always around. He's always helping our team around. He's very good at, helping defense, offense, our receivers, our quarterback, our defense is just, he's very good to be around, just very good energy. He brings a lot of good energy and a lot of good coaching. And I say our new offensive coach, I really like him a lot. He brings good energy. He has a good mindset. He went to state championship back 2016 with this offense, and it's really a big hurry up. And I say that's really good because our linemen are really conditioned, and with that, our line with this hurry up offense, D linemen are very tired, and that just has our quarterback just a lot more time to throw it other than last year. Okay.
We're speaking with El Dorado standout wide receiver, junior Jiari Morehead. Jiari, you had 4 touchdown receptions in week 1 against Oregon Mountain, 1 for 28 yards, 1 for 53 yards, 1 for 80 yards, and 1 for 89 yards. Now, I think 3 of them were kind of long balls. 1 of them was a little bit of a shovel pass, but talk to us a little bit about the chemistry that you've developed with senior quarterback Giovanni Evans.
Me and Gio go back a long. I've known him since I was in kindergarten. We went to the same elementary, same middle school, so we've been friends for a long time. But he didn't become my QB until about high school. And then when I was playing JV for a little bit as my freshman year, he was my quarterback throwing. And I say, like, last year we have a good chemistry. We always hang out. We always hang out outside of school. Even when we're out eating, just having fun. We're always game planning. We hang out, but we always like game plan a lot, and we just stick to football, and we just want to both succeed for our whole team.
For sure. Dad, go ahead.
Jiari, you mentioned that close friendship with Giovanni, and you know him well. He knows you, and that chemistry is quarterback and wide receiver. You have to know each other very well. He knows. You mentioned you worked on your routes, getting out the press, worked on your strength. Now I got to ask you a question because I got to know your dad just a little bit. He's a former Hornet like me, and I'm a lot older than him, but he was a track guy at Highland and a football player and a personal trainer. What kind of does he develop personal workouts for you? I'm thinking he does.
Ever since I was 8 years old, he's always we'd always go out to the field. He always help me on my speed, my agility. So I've been working with my dad, strength, conditioning. He's got me a lot stronger. He's got me a lot better as a football player, even in my mindset. He's always coaching me after the games, not to get in my head a lot. And he's just always that second coach that I always need.
He's one proud papa for sure. He was very excited when we talked to him last week, and when we talked to him we set this up. I can tell how proud he is of you. I've got to ask you about legendary head coach, El Dorado head coach Charlie Dotson, who's been around 19 years, but has been around the APS metro area, coached wrestling. Coach Dotson is a legend. He really is. What's it like to play for Coach Dotson?
I'm sorry. Could you repeat that? You like glitched out a little bit on my side.
For Coach Charlie Dotson, legendary coach, been around 19 years coaching football at El Dorado, but has been around, the APS, coach wrestling. What's it like to play for Coach Dotson?
I'm sorry, you're like cutting out a lot. It was hard to hear you. I'm sorry. I don't know if it's on my side or what.
It might be on mine. Go ahead, son.
Yeah.
Let's okay, not hear you. Not hear you.
Okay. What I asked you was, what's it like to play for Coach Dotson at El Dorado?
See, it's great. He he's been in the game a long time. When I talked to a little bit of coaches over the summer, they know who he was. He's a big part of El Dorado. I'll say he's a big part. Even the teachers say, even back in the day, he was a very good athlete, and I'll say he's a very good coach too. He's always making sure our players are good. He even though when I was trying to go for that record Friday night, he kept me out saying he needs me for the whole season. He just he always just tries to look out for the team. So
yeah, I got a question in regards to that. The receiving record was set by Valley's Aaron Molina several years ago with 351 yards, and you're at 290, 296. And Coach Dotson said in the paper, we don't go for records at El Dorado. But as an athlete, did you think to yourself, hey, that record's right there, I want it? Or it's a human nature. You had 4 touchdowns, 296 yards. That record's within reach. But Coach Dotson was clear, we don't do that at El Dorado. But personally speaking, were you thinking, hey, that would be nice? Or it's human. You're a junior in high school, and you won the game, which is way more important. And you might have turned an ankle, you said, but was there any thought in your mind like, hey, that would be nice to get that record?
Yeah, I actually really wanted that record when I hurt my tweaked my ankle a little bit. Even I wasn't really good to play, I know, in myself, but I still try to go out there with a messed up ankle, and I know I really shouldn't have done that, but my mindset was just getting that record. And then I was a little frustrated when Coach Dotson had me sit out, and then after I realized, it's like, my coaches are just having me just good for the rest of the season, just looking out for me. So after I just realized I got another 2 years, I could hopefully go for that again.
It's a natural thing, right? It is. You had a big night, and they didn't stop you all night. So I could see that. You had we mentioned 9 catches for 296 yards. There wasn't one thing they did defensively to adjust that night. Now maybe they, again, everybody covers people differently, but I would think this week against Cibola, it'll be a little different. But you had a big night that night for sure. Go ahead, son.
Jiari, one of the most important things for you going into this week's game against Cibola is getting healthy, as you mentioned. But I think, most people who didn't get to see the game against Oregon Mountain a couple weeks ago, I mean, you did all that work in about 2 quarters and 1 minute. You got hurt early on in the third quarter. So the opportunity certainly would have been there for you had you not gotten hurt. But I got to ask, man, you got to think that defenses are going to adjust to you. They know you're a threat out of the backfield. You can be a threat out wide. They may try to jam you at the line. They may send double coverages to you. How do you adjust mentally to make sure that you're still a threat on the offensive end?
I would say, just try to removing me. We know that's going to happen. We've been practicing just 2 guys over me whole practice. We know that's going to happen, and we're preparing for that. We're going to move me just a little bit, not too much, just a little bit, just try to still get me the ball. But I'm really excited because when they're double guarding me, we have a lot of receivers that's going to be really good, and they're going to have to also guard them, which is going to be a very tough night for them. So they're going to have to they're going to have to switch around guarding me and then my other teammates. So it's just going to be a good night for all of us.
Talk about your impact as a punt returner and as a kick returner. We mentioned earlier you returned 3 kicks for a touchdown last year, 2 punts. We expect you to be a threat in the punt return game and the kick return game. Talk to us about how you approach that aspect of football.
I've always been always the punt return, kick return guy my whole life. Ever since I started football, I take that actually very seriously. I love punt return, I love kick return. I just like just the thrill of it. Just you're the guy behind there, you're the guy in the back. So I try to just make one move, get up the field, and just do what I can.
Yeah, man. I was telling my dad, the name Jiari Morehead, that has a ring to it. It almost sounds like an NFL receiver. Is there a receiver in the NFL or in college that you emulate that you want to make your game like?
I say Tank Dell. I'd say I like how he plays a lot, and that's on my side. Kind of equates to his size, the smaller receiver. So I like to watch Tank Dell a lot.
Right on, Dad. Go ahead.
Chicago Bears fan, Jahari. I see that you have that helmet in the back there. Is that your team?
Nah. My team is the Panthers. This is my mom's office.
Okay. Well, you got to be looking forward to Sunday. With the NFL kicking off. It actually kicks off Thursday with Dallas and Philadelphia. So it's hard. Here football season's in full throttle, man. And I've got a question for you here, though. Cibola had a big win against Sandia on Thursday night, and their first game against Albuquerque High, they had a chance to win. I had David Howes, the Cibola head coach, on the sports desk today. He's very impressed with the way they use you as a wide receiver and the overall roster of El Dorado. He mentioned how big your tackles are. He said they're very big, they're very physical. What kind of challenge do you expect? This big game over there, Wilson, on Wilson Stadium, 7 p.m. What kind of challenge do you expect from Cibola on Friday night?
I was actually at that game, Sandia Cibola, and I got to get an eye view of what they could do. Actually, Hayes, Lobo's commit. He's gonna be a real impact on that defense, and we're just gonna have to get around him. He's gonna do. He's a big threat to us, and there's just a lot of other guys that we're gonna have to get around. And then I say it's gonna be they have a pretty tough defense that we're just gonna have to adjust to, and it's gonna be a fun night to watch.
Hayes Baum, the quarterback, also the University of New Mexico commit. But I got to say that Chris Howe, the former coach at Cibola, did a good job. Rod Williams did a good job. David Howes has won 2 championships at Rio Rancho, undefeated teams in 2014 and 2016. So there's a change of culture there with, coached at the University of New Mexico, coach safeties a couple of years ago. So I think coaching makes a difference. And with him and Coach Dodson matching wits on Friday night, the game's already begun behind the scenes as far as what your game planning for, what Cibola's game planning for. That should be, I think, a very good game on Friday night.
Yes, sir. I'm excited about that really a lot.
We asked you about, you also participated in powerlifting and track. You qualified in powerlifting and qualified in 8 events for track. Tell us how participating in those sports improves your football abilities.
I say, powerlifting, just getting a lot stronger. I really just joined powerlifting just to get a lot stronger for the season. As a smaller guy, try to get a lot stronger, and I qualified for state, which is really unexpected, but I was really happy about that. And then for track, I get that. I also take that very seriously too. Track's also one of my main sports. I always try to get faster every single day, and yeah, I think I had a pretty good track season.
Then you got your dad helping you out too with his individual workouts. Him being a personal trainer, he can definitely help you there. So it sounds to me like you're consistently trying to improve yourself and try to get better, faster, run routes. You put in the work. There's no doubt about it. Son, go ahead.
Speaking with standout junior wide receiver for the El Dorado Eagles, Jiari Morehead. Jiari, talking a little bit off the field, you have an overall GPA of 3.2 your sophomore year. Last year, you had a GPA of 3.5. You're getting it done in the classroom as well. Talk to us about the importance of academics for you.
I'll say I'm really trying to get it up. My freshman year, I was on a little bit of slump. I didn't have the best GPA until and then I started taking, the classroom. I need to take that more seriously. And then that's when I started, taking it more seriously, paying attention a lot more in class. And I just been, I'm always trying to reach just a high GPA just for colleges to see that I'm good in the classroom and good on the field. So I've been really focusing on the classroom a lot.
That's important, man. It's really important. Is there a subject in school that piques your interest more than others?
I'll say history sometimes, sometimes looking back in history, just finding out stuff that I didn't know, just, sometimes it wows me, and that's cool.
Yeah, for sure, man. I got one more question, then I'll turn it over to my dad. But you posted on your X account that you've been invited to UNM's home football games this season. They got a football game on Saturday at 1 p.m. at University Stadium. They'll take on Idaho State. But what did that mean to you, man, to be invited to all the UNM home games? You know, you're a local hometown kid. What did it mean to you to get that invite to UNM home games?
Just very excited and very blessed, you know, just for them to offer me to come to a game, it just means a lot to me. You know, I've been trying to just get the Lobo's interest a lot. It's been a little hard. I don't know, just trying to reach out to them. But, you know, just them just inviting me actually meant a lot, you know. So I just say that, you know, it's very blessed, very exciting.
Well, man, when you have performances like 9 catches, 296 yards, and 4 touchdowns, people are going to pay attention to you. If you keep having performances like that, more eyes are going to be on you. So, Dad, I'll turn it to you.
You know, Jiari, did you get a chance to watch New Mexico play against Michigan on Saturday night? Did you watch the game?
I wasn't at home to watch it, but I heard a lot, and they actually played a really good game, I thought.
Yeah, they played. My son and I were in Silver City. We couldn't watch it, but we came back on Sunday and we watched the replay. And they were 34-point underdogs, and I thought they played really tough. Michigan has 5-star athletes at almost every position, but I thought New Mexico hung in there and played a very tough game. And I think Coach Eck is trying to build a culture. You know, he's trying to build a winning culture here. And first game, I thought they did pretty well. You know, for the rest of the season, Jiari, we're going to let you go here in a second, but any goals that you have? You know, we want to win district, we want to get to state, you want to win the championship, I'm sure. Any goals that you have individually as a team, anything you're shooting for this football season? You got another season to play too.
I say as a team, you know, just, you know, go to state. That's all. I think we have a very good team. We have a very good rising defense. We have a great offense, I think, and I just hope that we could go very far in the playoffs and maybe go to the state. And I'll say individually, I set a goal for myself for about 100 receiving yards a game and then 2 touchdowns. You know, that'll add up to 20 touchdowns and 1,000 receiving yards. So that's just always a goal I'm going to set every single time I play.
Well, you're certainly off to a great start. Jiari Morehead, El Dorado Junior wide receiver, we thank you so much for being our guest tonight on Huddle Up, and we wish you the best of luck against Cibola Friday night at Wilson Stadium at 7 p.m. Thanks so much for being our guest.
Of course. Thank you for taking me.
You bet. You bet. So,
the bell is ringing for the back-to-school bash at Capitol Ford in Santa Fe. Don't be late to add up big factory incentives combined with final dealer subtractions on current inventory. Get back-to-school savings in a new 25 Ford F-150 STX. Buy for $699 a month plus 4.9% APR financing for 72 months. Or a new 25 Ford Bronco Sport. Lease for just $399 a month. It all adds up to a great time to buy during the back-to-school bash at Capitol Ford in Santa Fe.
Welcome back to Huddle Up, and we're going to be joined here by Eric Moulton just in a few minutes to talk about the Lobos game on Saturday against Michigan. Lobos coming up short, 34-17. But a couple things, son. We're going to go over some scores here, but Jiari Morehead, and his dad said this. Quiet guy, he's kind of shy, but I'll tell you one thing: he's impressive. He really is. He's got the speed. He's a kick returner, runs track, power lifter. What was your thoughts, son?
Oh, he just seems like a student of the game of football. He talked about some of the work that he put in between his sophomore and his junior season to become a better receiver. And like we mentioned during the show, I mean, he had 327 receiving yards or 372 receiving yards last season in 11 games. He had 296 receiving yards through 2 quarters and 1 minute of his junior season. Just a super big threat. And unfortunately, I didn't get the chance to cut the film of those touchdown receptions that he had. But I mean, like I think we said, 2 or 3 of them were just long bombs. He was single covered and he just beat the corner. And then one of them was a shovel pass. But make no mistake about it, man, the guy has elite speed, elite level Division I speed. And just hearing his thought process, him talking with us just a little bit, he's still got 9-10 games left, and if they get into the state tournament, I think they could really make an impact. So it was really good to talk to Jiari Morehead tonight. I
think you'd better keep an eye on them. Coach Howes was very complimentary of their tackles. Left tackle and right tackle. They're big, they're physical, they can score. And one thing about Coach Howes, though, that guy knows football. He does. He's a good coach. And he's going to have a plan. So will Coach Dotson. Coach Dotson's been around a long time. So I'd love to see that game on Friday. Unfortunately, I'll be out of town, but I'd like to see those two match wits on Friday night at Wilson at 7 p.m. So we're going to go over just a few scores because we got Eric Moulton waiting on deck. We want to talk Lobo football. Rio Rancho 55, Clovis nothing. Son, any surprise there? And Clovis, we mentioned Rio Rancho 2-0 on the season. Any surprise there?
No, not at all. I think Coach Pino and Rio Rancho, they've come out to a really strong start, defeating Atrisco Heritage. I think they put up 50-plus in week 1. They put up 55 in week 2. They've been kind of pressed by their running game. Their rushing attack has really paid dividends for them with quarterback Micah Takahashi and Rolston, the running back for them. I think they've really gotten some things going on the ground that's kind of opened the field up for other parts of their offense. But they look really good. I believe they started out 2-0 or 3-0 last season as well. You'll remember, Dad, we had J.J. Ariano on last season, right around this time last year. And they're going to have a test. They're going to play Las Cruces. I'm not sure if it's this week they go down to the Field of Dreams. I believe it may be. So that'll be a true test for the Rio Rancho Rams.
No doubt about it. Cleveland 49, Los Lunas 3. And, we had mentioned we had Caden Reese on a couple weeks ago. And Los Lunas went down to Roswell and lost, and then they went and they had Cleveland at home. And, Los Lunas has had a problem finding the end zone. But when you in the first 2 games of the season, but when you play against Los Lunas, the Jeff Lynn team, and then the defending 5A champions, it's kind of tough there. So Los Lunas off to an 0-2 start, and Cleveland 2-0, son.
Yeah, well, Cleveland, it's really hard to measure yourself against a team like Cleveland. I think there's kind of Cleveland in 6A, and right now there might be everybody else, although Las Cruces also looks very good. And I believe they travel up north to play Cleveland on September 12th. So it'll be next weekend. And everybody who watches high school football will have their eyes on Rio Rancho's the Cleveland Storm in a couple weeks. But no, Cleveland, another dominant performance. Senior quarterback Jordan Hatch, 224 passing yards, a passing TD, a rushing TD. He just has so many weapons on the offensive end. And really, it wasn't even their offense that was that dominant in that game. I got to tune into it a little bit on the NFHS network, Adam Deal on the call. And I believe it was 12-0 for a good part of the first half. There was a lightning delay that kind of slowed some things down. But they're just so physical on the defensive side of the ball. They've got a big offensive line and a ton of offensive weapons spread out wide. So they're going to be a tough team to beat.
Yeah, no doubt about it. You mentioned the physicality across both lines of scrimmage. That's really tough to beat. St. Pius 34, Grants 20, Urshel Holloway rushed for 100 yards, 3 touchdowns. Curtis Flakes the third, 76-yard kickoff return. The Sartans go to 2-0, Nick.
Yeah, I think this was a one-score game at halftime. I want to say it was 19-14 St. Pius. Pius with a strong road win. Pius beat Grants in the quarterfinals of the 4A state tournament last year. And, they look like they may be the team to beat in Class 4A. I mean, Bloomfield lost. I know you think that was the score that you were going to read next. And so, St. Pius, they lost maybe 8 or 9 seniors from last year. But they've returned to pass rush, man. They can get some pressure on the quarterback, and another team with a ton of offensive weapons on the offensive side. It's not just Urshel Holloway Jr., Kale Cox-Liggins, Curtis Flakes III, the quarterback Isaiah Carpenter, just a really deep team.
Their linebacker Colby Padilla, one of their leading tacklers last year, is also back, so that helps the Sergeants defensively. And the game you're right, Piedra Vista 27, Bloomfield 22, stopping Piedra Vista, I think, off to a 2-0 start, and they snapped Bloomfield's 12-game win streak. The Bobcats have won 2 championships in 4 years, and Coach Kovacs does a great job there. But Piedra Vista beat them at 27-22. So,
yeah, brand new quarterback this year for Bloomfield. It was their starting catcher for the state runner-up baseball team, Manuel Peanut Chavarria. He threw for 200 yards in the week 1 opener, and then I think a touchdown pass. But didn't get the chance to see the game or read much about it. Pedro Vista beat Sandia in week 1, 28-20 on a late fourth quarter comeback. So you had to think it was going to happen. Teams don't go undefeated every season. That's why we play the games. But they still got a really strong squad up there in Bloomfield.
And our last score we'll read, and then we'll wrap this edition of Huddle Up and come back with a live show about Lobo football. Pinnacle of Arizona 44, La Cueva nothing. And, reading the paper about that, there was a little bit of measure of revenge. La Cueva beating Pinnacle and Flagstaff last year. And, a star-studded La Cueva team. They're still formidable and still very good. They did lose Cam Dyer, Mason Poza, the running back, Bowie. They lost Montano, just decided to go run track instead, or participate track. He's a high jump. He's a runner too. So he decided not to play football. But Pinnacle of Arizona 44, La Cueva nothing. I think, and they played them up here. So a little measure of revenge for Pinnacle, son.
Yeah, don't mention last year to La Cueva head football coach Brandon Back. He was quoted in the Albuquerque Journal story by Tristan Critchfield. I'm so tired of listening to everybody talk about a different team from last season. It has nothing to do with being a different team. You come out and you do your job, or you don't do your job. And I didn't get the chance to see the game. It was the My 50 game of the week for ProView Network's Sebastian Noel on the call, but just a dominant performance for Pinnacle. They were up 21-0 at the end of the first quarter, 37-0 at half. And the quarterback play for La Cueva, it's hard to replace a guy like Cam Dyer. The quarterback, Monty Melendez, goes 3 for 16 passing and just was shaken up. I think Pinnacle's pass rush really got to him a little bit. So the Bears got to go back to the drawing board, man. They're 0-2 on the season. There's still talent there, and there's probably one of the best coaches in 6A football in Brandon Back. So I expect La Cueva to bounce back.
They will, and sometimes I think it's those seasons. And Brandon's Coach Back is a very good coach, and they'll figure it out. There's no doubt about that. They've had 2 tough games to start the season, but they will rebound. That's going to do it, son. Any other high school thoughts? We just don't have a lot of time, and next week with our guest, we'll wrap up a little bit more. Any other thoughts about high school football this past week?
No. Great week. Another exciting week coming up. You got El Dorado Cibola on Friday. I'll be at Wilson Stadium. I got Sandia and Volcano Vista on Saturday morning at 11 a.m. Should be a good game. Matadors looking for their first win. Volcano Vista coming off a kind of a close loss to Las Cruces. It was 38-20 down at the Field of Dreams last Thursday. So the Hawks are looking to bounce back. But yeah, man, we're starting to get into the thick of high school football. And it's an exciting time for sure.
That'll do it for this edition of Huddle Up. For my son, Ed Nunez, I'm Nick Nunez. Please stay tuned. We'll be back after these commercial messages with Eric Moulton, and we'll wrap up the Lobo football game against Michigan on Saturday.
You can't manage this, can't break this, boy, I'm funded. me, bro, I'm 0 degrees. Wait, you can't manage this, can't break this, bro, I'm funded. Gotta keep my distance when you not 100. Those the same ones say they love you, late and funny. You can't match my energy, and yeah, you know it. Way too cold, yeah, man, I'm way too cold. Way too cold, yeah, man, I'm way too cold. Way too cold, yeah, man, I'm way too cold. Yes, I meant it, yeah, man, I'm way too cold. Yeah, I'm killing it, I'm the realest. Ain't gotta say, gotta know you feel it. My flow got a cold and sick as the illest. I know that I'm great and they about to witness me going in. I went way up, about to go again. You see me on the telly, then you tell a friend. If you know I'm about to rain, it'll never end. Cause I got big dreams, big goals, never settle, gotta keep on going now. You say you got it, and I'm Red Bull, I got the wings and I ain't coming down. No. I keep it straight, every line is so intentional. This is your moment to let it go. You know that I'm into them way too cold. Too cold. You can't manage this, can't break this, boy, I'm funded. Gotta keep my distance when you not 100. Those the same ones say they love you, late and funny. You can't match my energy, and yeah, you know it. Way too cold, yeah, man, I'm way too cold. Way too cold, yeah, man, I'm way too cold. Way too cold, yeah, man, I'm way too cold. Yes, I meant it, yeah, man, I'm way too cold.
Hey, what's up, fellas?
What's going on, Eric? Good to see you, man.
I want to say that you guys had a great guest on earlier. I always like when you guys cover the high school athletes around here. I know that New Mexico is kind of one of those states that gets looked down upon sometimes, that doesn't come out with the 4 or 5 star athletes, but there's some hidden gems out there, man. And you just gotta look hard enough. And I mean, with what's coming up in Albuquerque and Rio Rancho, and even throughout the whole state, there's some good players out there, man. And you guys do a really good job of not only getting them on the show, but kind of telling their story. So I just want to commend you guys for that. You guys are always on par with the guests and covering the high school sports. So great interview.
I think I appreciate that. I think it helps too that we get to cover this. Nick probably more than me because I'm gone it. Although this week I got to say this, and we'll get to this later. Nick and I didn't get to talk about it. We were both down in Silver City. I did the play-by-play, and Nick did the PA. And it was Nick's first job as a PA announcer, and he did a great job. PA is a little bit different, and there's an echo there, and you have to get over all that. And I thought Nick did a great job. And again, I got to go down with my son, and Western came away with a 36-28 win over Adams State, and they'll play Highlands up in Las Vegas on Saturday at 6. So, but we get to cover high school football, and we get to be around it. We get to talk to the coaches. And so when we saw Jiari Morehead have that performance, we wanted to get him on a couple of weeks ago, but Nick and I were out of town, and so we waited. And he's, think about it, he's already been invited to UNM football home games. He's only a junior. He's fast. He's he's trying to get himself better. So you never know where his career will end up. His dad said he's a little bit shy, and you could tell that. He's not a braggart at all. But we enjoyed him. I enjoyed talking to him, and I think the best is yet to come for him. It's going to be, Cibola El Dorado is kind of flying under the radar as far as a good game. That's going to be a very good game on Friday night at Wilson. Good game.
Yeah, and Eric, just wanted to say thank you to you and Ryan for giving us the opportunity and the platform to cover high school sports on the Pit Press. Man, we can't thank you guys enough, so thank you.
Yeah, happy to have you guys on, but I know you both were calling the Western game over the weekend, so we're not available to watch the UNM game live. But, man, what a game it was. I think it kind of shocked a lot of people. Michigan jumped out to a 14-0 lead, and as a Lobo fan sitting at home, you're like, man, here we go again. But they punched back, and they punched back a few times. And you're just not, as a Lobo fan, not used to that. I mean, over the last 15, 20 years. But now that you guys had a chance to kind of sit down, watch the game, digest it. I know, Nick, you probably got a ton of notes on it. But I just wanted you guys' overall feedback on, or your opinion on what you guys saw from the Lobos, particularly from Jason X, some of the game planning, and then the overall effort. on the field. I think that was the big one, right? Like just how clean of a ball game they played, but how hard they played too, with that grit that Jason Neck talked about in his presser today. So Nick, I'm going to kick it over to you first, but what'd you think of the game on Saturday?
Yeah, man, I was really impressed by the way that they didn't bend. You know, they didn't fold. They bended, but they didn't fold. You know, their first two offensive series, they go 3 and out pretty quick. I think they had to get adjusted to the speed and size of Michigan. And then their defense settled in. You know, they gave up that big run to Justice Haynes on the first drive, and then it was a little bit more of a methodical drive on the second drive. But just those 2 long touchdown drives, Eric, were the ones that were most impressive for me. That one that was about midway through the second quarter, that 12-play, 82-yard touchdown drive that ended in the McKinney pass to Dorian Thomas in the end zone on the trick play. I think they converted that was in the second half. But it was Jack Lane, after struggling on the first 2 series, he goes 6 for 9 and completes a pass to 4 different receivers, Dorian Thomas, Keegan Johnson, Scott Trey Humphrey, and Deshaun Buchanan. And then that trick play that they executed, you know, it just shows Coach X's creative playmaking or creative coaching. And he talked a little bit about that at the press conference today. Just kind of the execution that goes behind it. I think it was Jeff Grammer that asked him the question, like, do you guys just practice trick plays every practice? Like, how does this get incorporated into the game plan? And I think it just shows what a brilliant offensive mind he is. Also, Coach Luke Schleisner, just really impressed, man, with the way that they battled adversity. You know, in the second half, they converted, I think, 4 third downs on that touchdown drive they had in the second half when they were 0 for 6 on third down in the first half. And they got bailed out. You know, I think Coach Eck was asked about this at the press conference today, but that catch by Michael Buckley, I think it was 3rd and 9, 3rd and 13, that was not a catch. But he talked about what the mentality was. If we have a close call, we want to get to the line of scrimmage right away and snap the ball. And that's exactly what they did. And that's coaching. That's good coaching. So don't want to talk too long, man, but I was really impressed by the effort. I think offensively, there's a lot of things that we can build on. We got to run the ball a little bit better. 50 yards rushing. He talked about it. They weren't very balanced against a team like Michigan. That's hard to do. But just very encouraging, man, and exciting for Lobo fans. Everyone needs to turn out to University Stadium this Saturday.
Nicely said. Ed, what are your thoughts?
You know, they started out as a 34-point underdog, and Nick and I were, you know, there was a rain delay in Silver City because of lightning, so Nick and I were watching together. When they got down 14-0, I think I even texted you, E, and I said, "Hey, that's a tough start," and but they punched back, man. Like Nick said, they had a hard time running. What they averaged 1.8 yards per rush. They're not going to run against that front. Michigan, oh man, they laid some hits on Dorian Thomas. They did, man. They really did. But and Coach Eck talked about that today, about protecting Jack Lane, better. Again, you're going against a front that has 5-star athletes everywhere. You couldn't run, so you're going to have to pass the ball a little bit more, and there's going to be more chances for that front 7 to pin their ears back and rush the quarterback. And they did. But I'm telling you one thing, man. I think Nick and I was so impressed by the grit. They didn't quit, man. They didn't quit. And I talked to Ned today, Ned James, and we'll have him on tomorrow. And nobody knows, God, this guy knows football like I've never seen anyone talk about. Like Nick and I and you, Eric, know hoops. This dude can talk about football and explain one play to me when it was 3rd and 14. He said the Lobos were in the right coverage, but one of the safeties, they were right there. He should have made the play. And that, kept Michigan's drive going. Remember this. And you know what Ned said to me today? Michigan has 28 coaches, man. 28 football coaches. 28. and I was like, are you serious? And so you're looking at one program that draws 107,000, has a $12 million quarterback against a program that's trying to find some footing, that hasn't really had a good year in a long time. So David versus Goliath, I thought they played their behinds off. He mentioned that trick play today. They had ran that in Idaho a couple years ago. And so Coach Choate from Nevada had talked about how good he is with formations. Did you see the middle screen? They ran that screen in the middle, and Michigan's line didn't even get off the ball. So he's going to trick you up a little bit. But and my wife even noticed this too. He's out there, high fiving, and some people would say Rocky was stoic. They'd make a play, Rocky was stoic, and that's everyone's got their own personality. But I like what he did. I thought he was in the game. I thought the team, and at one point, Richard Pierce was getting into it with the defensive lineman or a defensive lineman from Michigan, and he ran away. I was laughing. He didn't want to get the flag. Eric, you mentioned it. They played a clean game, right? Their penalties were few. So for an opening game, I saw him today, and I said, man, that trick play, God, I shook his hand. I said, what a call. So there's a lot of work left to be done. We understand that. It's one game, but it gave me Dorian Thomas, the tight end. That kid is tough. That kid is a tough ball player, man. They threw to him little long handoffs in the flat. He took some. Oh my God, he took some pops. He did. But that he's a football player. He's a good player. So Jackson Eck, my son mentioned that Tavian Combs. Their front seven held up as well as they could against a Michigan team that outweighs them. It's stronger, has more resources. So for game one, in Coach Eck's first game of his tenure here, I thought they acquitted themselves. I was very proud of them. Thought they acquitted themselves very well. I really did.
Yeah, well, I think the overall self-awareness too with the Lobo team, I think they all kind of stayed within their lane and executed the jobs that they were supposed to do, right? None of them really tried to be a superhero or tried to do too much. And yeah, those first two drives, Nick, they were stalled, man. They were not going to run the ball on that Michigan team. Now, look, this Michigan team saw 4 draft picks go to the NFL last year, just on the defensive side. And then they reloaded. They reloaded. They got another 2 guys on the edge. Forgot their names. It'll hit me later when I bring it up. But Derek Moore, number 8, that guy's a first-round NFL draft pick, right? Like you're looking at another roster they just reloaded. You talked about the quarterback at $12.5 million over 4 years with NIL and revenue share. 28 coaches. I mean, more money's pouring into that program. So you got to imagine how much budget is designated just for the defense alone. They got guys in the wings to go to the NFL, but the Lobos didn't back down. No, Eck talked about walking out there like the movie Hoosiers, right? Like wanting to get out there with the measuring tape, measure the field goal posts down to the field. Like, guys, we're playing on the same field. We're playing the same game. Those guys put on the pants the same way that we do. They might be a little bit bigger, a little bit faster, but we can be smarter. We can execute. We can play a much cleaner game. And that's what they did, right? And they also made the appropriate adjustments at the right time. First 2 drives stalled, couldn't get the ball going, right? And with the pass rush that Michigan has, they were getting after Jacqueline bad, man. 19 total pressures over the course of the game. He got hit 9 times. I think he got sacked 3 times. But he was just continually pressured. He was on the row, and that guy took some freaking brutal hits. And for him to get up and continue, man, like you can't say enough about that guy, right? Like gamer, that's the guy that you want as a quarterback. That's the guy that you want to go to battle with. But yeah, I think today after the presser, I listened to Jeff Grammer's and Sean Ryder's podcast or live stream. They made a really good point. Like Eck was asked it in the press conference. Like he hasn't been congratulated this much over a loss in his career, right? It was a 17-point loss. Yep. But I think the expectation of this Lobo team was they were going to go in there. They were going to get slaughtered. They did not get slaughtered. They actually had Michigan on their heels at the end of that first half. The stadium was silent. Right. And you could just kind of sense the momentum shift a little bit. Yeah. And that little bit of that feeling is hope to me, right? As like a Lobo, like that's the culture that you're talking about, Ed. That's like what they're trying to build on. That's what they're trying to instill in these players. And that shit is contagious, man. Once those players started to believe, they started to execute. And talk about the defense too, man. Like they were just as physical as Michigan were. Yeah. They were laying some hits. They were getting after it. They were not backing down. So
Oh, I think so, man. I think you bring a good point. There were really three big plays that Michigan had that I think were kind of the difference in the game. That big 56-yard touchdown run by Justice Haynes to open things out. Then on 3rd and 14, Jason Eck calls that timeout at the end of the first half. Jeff Grammer brought it up in the post-game show that they did right after the game. He brought it up in the press conference today. But, and I think Eck talked about it a little bit. He said their analytics team criticized him because as a heavy underdog, that maybe was too aggressive of a coaching call. But he also said, if I'm going to make bad coaching decisions, I'd rather they be aggressive. That sets up a 39-yard touchdown pass that eventually results in a touchdown at the end of the half for Michigan. And then Justice Haynes had, I think, another 58-yard touchdown run, not touchdown run, but a 58-yard big run. I think it was in the third quarter. That led to a 1-yard score. Outside of those big plays, Eric, and if you add those plays up, that's almost 150 yards of offense. I thought UNM's defense was really good. They got 2 sacks on Bryce Underwood, so it didn't put a ton of pressure on the quarterback, but got to him enough. And man, what a loss Austin Brawley is. I know you told us about this earlier, Eric. You were the first one to tell us. Jason Eck announces at the press conference today that UNM safety Austin Brawley, a captain on this team, is going to be out for a significant portion of the season. He came up really big. I want to say it was in the first half. I can't remember if it was the first or second quarter, but it seemed like he had 3 pass breakups in a row, the Ohio transfer. And so, yeah, man, I thought their defense looked really good. And if it wasn't for those 3 big plays that we talked about, I think, could have been a different game.
You would have expected them to make those plays, right? And so I think going into the game, what do we expect? I think I said 55-7 at first. I amended that to 40-14. So I think they performed much better. Again, there's unknowns. We didn't know anything. What do we know? We knew he's the new coach. Complete roster turnover. A few guys stuck around. New quarterback. New OC, new DC defensive coordinator, knew everything, new athletic director, knew everything. So we didn't know. We knew he could coach, right? He had Idaho, Oregon on the ropes last year, and so I thought he did had a good game plan. I really did. Again, Michigan that's Michigan, man. You got a quarterback making $12 million, over 4 years. One of the top players in high school, and then signing with Michigan. So yeah, Ronnie saying I heard this no more wins, but it's a morale builder for the program. Remember where this program has been. We said this. Coach Mendenhall was here last year, and there was some hope, right? There was some hope, but I got to say this: that's a different personality. And Eric, we talked about that this weekend. Even when we were in Las Vegas. Now, I told you that, Eric, you weren't there, but Coach Mendenhall came over to me, man, and shook my hand and just put no, Eric, you were there. Yeah, so when he shook my hand, it put me off my total game. I didn't expect that. But he's doing the same stuff at Utah State over there that he did over here. Now, there's no doubt he can coach, but he's not a promoter of a program. He wants to keep things secret. We saw an article there that Utah State only drew 16,000 because he didn't want to share information. He doesn't, want to let anybody know what they're doing. Okay, so you compare that with Coach Eck. He's totally different. He's in the community. I was cracking up when he's jumping up in the air and high five. He's enthusiastic. And some people would say, I like it. I don't think I've seen a Lobo coach for years. I don't know. The last one, Franchione, was animated, but not like that. No way. Not like that. I don't know the last one. Bob Davies, stoic. Danny got excited, but it was fun to see them. Again, they're backed up. They're down 14-0. One more play by Michigan, and they may pack it in. Instead, they answer. They punch back. And you saw the physicality. Again, they're outweighed. These guys have more speed. They're bigger, stronger. They did not back down. They didn't. And I think that's one of the things that I looked at them, and they had a chance. And, son, you mentioned that 3rd and 17. That's the play that Ned was talking about. They had the right coverage. Somebody just didn't cover. They were right there. Ned said they had the right coverage, and that could have changed the whole game. But, all things considered, I know I keep saying this. Did we expect that? Did we expect that kind of effort? I didn't know what to expect. So going forward, you mentioned, Eric, it builds excitement. It's like, hey, man, look, that Thomas kid, do you want to go watch him play? I do. We haven't seen the running game excel. It's going to. I can promise you that. They've got some really good McKinney, Bankston, Scottry Humphrey. They're not going to average 1.8 per carry every game. I can promise you that. So this is a team, I think, and Jack Lane, think about this too. There was questions about Lane. He was on a pitch count in spring ball, and he comes out, and I thought, and we mentioned, man, he's stuck in that pocket. Oh my goodness. A couple of hits. I'm like, oh, wow. And again, one of the commenters mentioned, Coach X said that today too, they need to protect him better. And they will. They're not going to be playing Michigan every game with that kind of front. So all things considered, I am so excited. Again, I'm a glass half full guy, but I'm not a Pollyanna either, that doesn't have unrealistic expectations. But I think what we saw on Saturday can definitely be built on, and hopefully a lot of people turn out on Saturday.
Well, it kind of sets up for the season, though, right? It kind of puts the guys in the mentality that, hey, we actually belong. We compete with one of the nation's best, most storied, traditioned programs in the country, right? Like, and then you actually get to come back down to earth a little bit, and you're having to compete in the Mountain West, right? And you just watched what happened over the weekend. Boise State has been talked about year in and year out for how long? Ed, you talk about being in Mountain West Media Days, just the aura that comes with Boise State and how big their media guide was. I forgot how many conference championships they talked about, but man, they got crushed. They got crushed. And UNLV's 2-0, but they really haven't played a whole lot. I guess we could use this weekend against Idaho State as a measuring stick to kind of see where UNM kind of fits within that scale, because UNLV struggled with Idaho State. Idaho State went up 10-0 at UNLV in week 0. Now they get to come to Albuquerque, and UNM can kind of see where they measure up maybe with that, right? I think early in the season, there's still a lot to be discovered. But, I mean, if I had one takeaway from this weekend in the Lobo game, it was definitely that sense of belonging, that you knew that this team was going to play hard and that they actually belonged in the field with some of these big, powerful schools. So last thing I want to ask you guys before we cut it short, because I know that you guys got Ned James and I think another guest coming on tomorrow, and then we might do something either Thursday or Friday leading up to the game just to cover more of the Idaho State stuff. But there was a question asked today at the press conference. Sean and Jeff talked about it a lot, but this is the mentality side of things, right? Nick, you played. Ed, you played. Didn't matter what sport, but man, if people are telling you and congratulating you, hey, like, you guys did really well, you guys competed with the best, you guys came up short, like, we're still proud of you, but there was just that little bit more that might have been able to take you over the hump, right, to maybe even be in the running to win a game. Like, how much more is that motivating to get to that spot, knowing that maybe you're not that far off, but then also knowing that you don't want to fall back, right? You don't want to resort back to say, okay, like, what we did was good enough. We're not going to have to push ourselves a little bit further, which I don't clearly anticipate. But how much more do you think this Lobo team can improve now that we're going to getting the season going? We're going to start doing it week in, week out. But how much more growing do you think this Lobo team has? And what are you most looking forward to see from either the offense or the defensive side? Ed, I'll start with you. Or Nick, I'll start with you.
Go ahead, son.
Yeah, well, I mean, on the growth part, you play in a team like Michigan, a Power 5 school ranked in the top 25. Good measuring stick, I guess. But I think there's a ton of room for growth in a lot of areas on both sides of the ball. And Coach Eck talked about that at the press conference today. I think an area that we need to grow, and I think one of the commenters that we had earlier, Mr. Charlie, said we need better pass protection. And Coach Eck talked about that at the press conference. I don't know how many times Jack Lane was put on his backside on Saturday, but it had to have been between 5 and 10, where he's just on the ground from a pass rush, getting blitzed by a future NFL draft pick. And Coach Eck talked about it. Sometimes that's on him. He's got to get the ball out earlier. He's got to make the right read and find the right receiver downfield.
And sometimes that's on the offensive line where they need to pick up a block. But there were too many times where there was just a free rusher that had a clear path to Jack Lane. And I think they'll clean that up against Idaho State. Yeah, against Idaho State and then down the rest of the season. Defensively, they got to get better against the run. They gave up 2 really big chunk rushes to Justice Haynes, the 56-yard touchdown and the 58-yard run. I think, playing against a big front 5 like Michigan's, you're not going to see that probably the rest of the season. But those are 2 areas where I think they could really improve. And, kind of the motivational question that you asked, Eric, kind of going full circle. I mean, I think it's really motivating to know that you were in a game in the fourth quarter, a 2-score game in the fourth quarter on the road with the top 25 team. I think sky's the limit, and really the only way to go is up.
Yeah. Ed.
I think it's a great point, son. And, think about it. Michigan sees New Mexico on the schedule. They're not even thinking, who's New Mexico? Right? This is going to be a slaughter, 55-14. Yeah, we got nothing to worry about. But I think the thing was when the fans were silent. And Greg wrote a great article. Archuleta wrote a great article about the game. And I think Noah Eagle, Ian Eagle's son, mentioned New Mexico has made their presence felt here tonight. And when the fans were quiet, hey, man, that said a lot. It did. It did because they were expected to be a victim, right? Okay, New Mexico will roll, and when do we play Ohio State? New Mexico made them think a little bit. And there's something to build on, right? And it's exciting because Coach Eck, we mentioned the formations, trick plays. He's going to entertain you. He may go for it 4th and 5. We don't know. He's going to, he's been known to do that. So I think I'm anxious to see that running game get going. The backs we mentioned, Bankston, McKinney, Scottree, Humphrey. Wait till they start rolling downhill, and then Jack Layden doesn't have to pass 35 times a game and get hit 6 or 7 times a game. Once you have more offensive balance, what can they do? So a lot to build on. I think the defense. The defensive front did a good job. Tavion Combs, we mentioned, a lot of tackles. Jackson Eck at linebacker. And so I think there's a lot of room for improvement. And one of the things we didn't mention, Ronaldo Lobo talked about Lobo Lane and concessions and new things to bring people in. He's got a new pair of eyes on the situation. So I think there's a lot to be excited about. I'm certainly excited about what I saw on the field against Michigan on Saturday, and I expect a big win on Saturday. But we'll see what happens.
Not sure if Eric froze. It looks like he may have froze, Dad.
There he is.
There he is.
No, I got it. Yeah, my headset died. Sorry, I cut out there the last minute. You said that they had Lobo and those guys have a new set of eyes on the program and just everything that they got going on with the logo on the field, the tailgating experience, getting the kids and the families involved, man. I think it's all very important. So I don't know if I just said everything that you just said, Ed, but that was the last that I heard.
Yeah, I think there's so many things to today. So last game of the year. Think about this. They lost to Montana State. In a game that they probably should have won, and we felt a little bit down about that. I remember being in the press box and like, oh man. And this year, even though they lost, I think we're feeling a lot more upbeat about what the possibilities are. And again, there's no moral victories, but we saw a team that was supposed to be overmatched by 34 points hang in there. And, I don't know that they ever were serious threats to win the game, but they made Michigan think, and they had the fans silent for a little while. That was funny to hear for me. I'm like, wow, look at this. All these fans here, and they're quiet. So a lot to build on, a lot to be excited about. And, we'll see going forward. But, man, it's hard not to embrace that enthusiasm from Coach Eck. Hard not to see that and say, man, I'm not behind that. It's hard not to see. And you guys, we've all played. Son, I don't know. Coach Segura had his own way of motivating, and you played for Coach Gomez, right? Eric.
Mm-hmm.
So we've all played for different kind of people that motivate, and Coach Eck, not everybody's into that either, by the way. You can't, some guys aren't rah-rah guys or, aren't enthused by that. They prepare in their own way. I was always that kind of guy that saw that, and I'm like, okay, let's get it, man. Let's go. Let's play hard. Let's go. But so I think people saw that, and, man, it's hard not to be excited about that. It really, to me, coming out in the field, high-fiving people, I got a big kick out of it. So I'm looking forward to it. I think there's a lot to build on here.
Yeah. Well, we'll go ahead and round off the show. I want to thank everyone for watching. Be on the lookout. There's some articles coming. Greg Archuleta, Ryan covered the game from Detroit. Tomorrow night's show, Ned, James, Ed, and Nick will probably be back. Ryan, and then they're also going to get Tony Garcia from the Detroit Free Press and kind of get an insider's look at. He covers the Michigan program. He probably got a better feel for how people are feeling around the Michigan community right now with what the Lobos were able to do on Saturday. And then we'll maybe have like a pregame show on Friday or maybe Saturday morning. So more to come on that, but go ahead, check out our website, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We enjoy you guys chiming in and joining the conversation. And until next time, we'll talk soon.